Hello and welcome everyone to another incredible episode of Coming Back to Life. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you. And before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank two of the supporters who have contributed and offered their support to this podcast, Julie Ardito and Joe Michio. And without their support, I cannot continue to bring these incredible interviews and these episodes and all of the production that goes into this podcast. And if you'd like to join me in my efforts by becoming a supporter, I invite you to check out the information in the show notes and offer your support in any way possible so that we can continue to bring these episodes out into your life and into the world. So thank you, Joe, and thank you, Julie, from the bottom of my heart. And today we have with us Megan Winters, and I'm just going to do that again, okay? Today we have with us Megan Winters, and she is going to be sharing her stories and her experiences with us. Another former special education teacher. I find it funny how all walks of life bring you to who it is that you are meant to meet, and I seem to find this common connection with many special education teachers. But Megan's experiences that she is going to be sharing is going to further contribute to those experiences that literally have a way of catapulting us. And when we ignore those shoulder taps in our lives, we talk so much on this podcast about these experiences, that there are different things in our lives that give us the shoulder taps that tell us, you might want to pay attention to this. I'm not sure this is the right direction. And when it is that we ignore those shoulder taps, how we can kind of either be literally hit upside the head, in some cases through illness or injury or even car accidents, and other times where we can literally be pulled from experiences or denied all of the opportunities that we think we're meant for, or that are on the path that we think we're meant to be taking. But how those powers that be have that authority to really redirect us in some ways that we quite often never expect, and what it is that Megan has been able to bring about in her life and in the world as a result of the decisions, the risks that she's taken, and some of the really empowering choices that she has made throughout in her life. So Megan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Megan, if you would please, can you give us a little bit of background before we take into where it is that you are now, of what it is that you come from and some of those signs and signals that indicated to you that it was time for a change?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background professionally is that I was a special education teacher for many years. I worked with students on the autism spectrum in particular. That was an area of interest for me. And I was a teacher for 7 years, and then I was a teacher consultant, and then I was an assistant principal. None of those transitions were intentional transitions either. I loved the classroom so much. I was so passionate about teaching. I was so passionate about working with kids. And I think because I was a good teacher, my administration had, how about you become a teacher consultant and help and support other teachers? And I was like, no, I don't think I'm ready. Well, I continued to say no many times. And then the current teacher consultant at the time was going for knee surgery. And they said, okay, so here's a great opportunity. You can just try it. Just try it. And then you can go right back to the classroom. And I said, okay, this will be a great experience. I will try it. So 8 weeks turned into 12 because her recovery was a little bit longer than expected. And then she accepted a position as a special ed supervisor. So here I am sitting in her chair, just have learned the job of like holding that position, and now the position's open. So of course my administration was like, okay, so you know this, it would really make our lives so much easier if you took this position. So I ended up doing that, and I was a teacher consultant for a couple years, and then that position dissolved into an assistant principal. And so then I was an assistant principal. In education, like educating in the classroom and educating and being an administrator, they are completely different things, like 100% polar opposites. Like I said, I was really passionate about the classroom. I'm grateful for my experience as an assistant principal. I was in that position for 3 years, which when you were just talking about shoulder taps in your introduction, really made me think of when I took on that role as an assistant principal. I told the principal, I'm going to give you 3 years, just 3 years. Like I don't know if this is for me long term, but I'll give you 3 years. She was new to that role as a principal, so like both of us were new at the same time. So I really wanted to give her a chance to like, you know, get her footing and feel comfortable in that role before I left. And I had no idea where I was going, by the way. I just didn't know that. I just didn't think it was going to be that there. So we got to about year 2.5. I was at like 2.5 years, and I said, okay, I'm going to give you another year. And at the time, no one knew that I was also working on another project, an idea, dream that I had had for many years. So I, in my mind, was thinking, well, I'll just work a 4th year, and while pursuing this other thing, so that I have some stability while I'm creating this other thing. And that is not what the universe had in mind for me.
Oh my gosh. So I just want to piggyback off of this for a little bit and really tie in here that I'd like to ask you, Megan, that like in hindsight now, when you look back on this, because I think your experience is something so many people, most especially women, can relate to. And this is an interesting part where, you know, we talk often about the difficulty of saying no, right? And saying yes when we want to say no, and that path of least resistance and going into these positions. And this is one of those experiences where you're like, no, I said no. And I was saying no for a very long time. And I knew it was no. And I knew I didn't want to do it. But then all of these experiences and all of these opportunities, quote unquote, kept opening themselves up. And what it is for you that when you look back now, realizing like in that time, what it is that you experienced about yourself and in your life once you were saying yes to these things that were clearly no for you. What were those signs of like disconnect for you, and what it was that you were going through in that experience that was letting you know, this is not the right thing for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When I was an assistant principal, I put a lot of fake pressure on myself. I say fake because I made it all up in my own head. I was young, and I was a female, and I had imposter syndrome. And so I thought that I had to act a certain way. I thought I had to dress a certain way. My interactions with people had to be a certain way. Like, I created this whole fake persona that was Megan as an assistant principal. And it was so far from authentic Megan. During that time, which this is a bigger part of the story, but one of my best friends, Jessica, passed away. And she was a wheelchair user, had muscular dystrophy, so has so much to do with what I'm doing now. But after her passing, her brother and another friend of ours and her cousin, we wanted to get a whale tail tattoo in memory of her. And I was like, no, I'm an assistant principal, and assistant principals don't have tattoos. um, Again, I like made that up in my own head. And so what I ended up doing is I did end up getting the tattoo, but I got it on underneath my left wrist. So then my Apple Watch would cover it and nobody would see it. And so now in retrospect, I like look back on like just even the fact that I even had those ridiculous thoughts was so far from the authentic me. So during that time, I was on anxiety meds. I was not showing up as a great wife, as a great mother. I was completely drained of all of my energy when I would get home at night. I just had nothing left in my tank at all. I'm kind of an introvert. I require recharge. And I just didn't get any of that recharge. So although, I say this as a negative, it sounds negative in the way that I'm speaking about it, I 100% believe that this was a part of my past that was meant for me. I needed to have that experience to get to where I am today.
Megan, I want to hit on some of these points because as I meet and I talk with each guest, it's amazing. I was expressing to Megan how every time I sit down with a guest that this process unfolds more deeply. And what I do is I sit here and as the person speaks, I get these gems of things that come out. And there were so many points that you hit on in that experience. And I really want to highlight these things. And what I heard from you was, this alter ego and this double life and everything it was that you were creating for yourself around this position and this persona and this identity. And the key words you used there in the sharing of the experience with the tattoo was, I am an assistant principal, and assistant principals are not supposed to ... And recognizing this place that so many women find themselves in and totally sharing in this experience, because I share that when I left my role as an educator, the massive wave of depression, anxiety, chronic illness, and all of these things that I experienced, and now in hindsight realizing that it was because I identified myself by what I did, not by who I was. And when those roles and those positions come to an end, it's like literally that loss of identity. Like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? You don't even know what you like, what you want, what you need. And two other things that you really said that were so impactful was the one thing of recognizing, it's so funny because so many of the guests that come on here as well are also introverts. I think I've had to date one who said, I'm an extrovert by nature. But it's so funny. And I love this because there's so much about our life and our way of being that moves in such an opposing direction for introverts and highly sensitive and empathic people. And we are finding that so many highly sensitive, empath people, introverts, they come into these roles and positions of caregivers and educators and nurses and people who literally care and give and nurture, because that's quite honestly a strength. It's light working and healing. And there's a lot of friction in terms of the busyness and the stimulation, particularly that of an administrator, right? It's a nonstop ringing phone. It's the door open and closed. It's kids in and out. It's meetings. It's development. It's, training, and it's ongoing education and paperwork and and then a family on top of that. And the fact that in this place and time, you were literally being pushed to your breaking points energetically, and recognizing this isn't even a way that I feel that I can physically function anymore.
Correct.
And, how many people without that knowledge and understanding. Now, did you know that you were an introvert at the time? Or is this something you came into understanding and awareness later?
No, I knew that I was an introvert, but I did not understand the value of self-care yet. So that came later, that I understood that as an introvert, I require this, and this to prepare me for my days, to prepare me for life, or to recharge my battery when it's empty.
So let's be clear on that one more time, because I love to dispel this myth. You said that were required of you, and not just something you liked to have or was nice to have. It was required of you.
Yeah. So, now I was, I had two young boys. I had to get up first thing in the morning. I had to get them ready for school. I had to get to work, an hour before the other staff, and I was there 2 hours after everyone. And then I had to come home with these two boys. I mean, my husband was great support too, but I had to do the commuting of the kids just because of the location of where my job was. Mm-hmm. And so I had all of these responsibilities and zero time for self-care. Mm-hmm. Like there was not enough hours in the day for self-care in there. And
let's just be vulnerable. Let's just be vulnerable and share there, because this is where the gems come. What were those effects? Like when you were running on that empty tank and you had these two kids and you're running around and you had zero time, or let's be clear on this. We're not taking or investing that time into your self-care. How did this impact you as like a mom and in your personal life? Like, what were some of the experiences that you had?
I remember not having a lot of patience for, the things that my kids were doing. I didn't, in retrospect, I feel like I maybe missed out on some really great opportunities to interact and spend quality time with them. And same with my husband. I think because I was on E, that I wasn't showing up as a great wife either. I was unhappy. I was grumpy. I was drained, and how I deal with that, or how I dealt with that, is trying to control things. And so because I felt such lack of control in so many other aspects of my life, I would come home and try to control things. I would want the kitchen a certain way, and I would want this thing this way. And so control is how I tried to keep my sanity, and that didn't help.
Oh my God, Megan, I have to say, in this moment, you are literally reaching out and hugging the heart of every single woman, wife, and mother, and really any caregiver. This can be stay-at-home dads, this can be grandparents caring for children, and anyone who can really identify and share in this experience. And I've talked so much about this in my own personal life, and there is that element of sadness that we do realize in hindsight, as you said, those missed out experiences and that missed time, and how it is that we come to realize that when we make ourselves so readily available and exhaustively at the disposal of everyone and everything outside of us, we don't make ourselves available, and we actually end up missing out. And how I came to realize it, and some other women have really connected with this, is that those who deserve the best of us get the scraps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? They get the crumbs, the leftover, they get the, exhausted, burnt out, screaming, impatient mom. They get the tired wife that, is like, I just need to go to bed because, we can't go out. I don't want to do anything. And then this idea too of control, that if I can just keep everything Because what we don't realize at the time is control is a very strong indicator. When you're finding yourselves in that place of control, it's because everything else that's going on is so far out of whack. Like that is like this big neon billboard going wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we grab and we grab and we grab. And then what ends up happening, right, Megan, and I know you're going to be like, yes, totally, I can relate to this. Then we get into this place, like you said, I want the kitchen a certain way. I want that dishwasher loaded just the way I like to do it. I need everything stacked, everything in the drawers. So we get so nitpicky about everything that we start doing everything ourselves. Then we burn out even more going, well, I don't even get any help around here. Well, we do, but you never like the way we do it. And I laugh because my husband would be like, can you stop coming in? Like, you're like a helicopter. You just come in and you swoop under it. I was about to pick that up. Can you stop cleaning behind me? And I was like, oh, sorry. It's like, yeah, but I wanted that moved now, or I'm not trusting that you're going to do, all these nitpicky little things. And we don't realize at that time what it is that does to the people who are there for us the most, who are connected to us, that we are supposed to be connected to the most. We miss out. We're so outwardly focused that we forget what matters.
Yes, absolutely.
And Megan, there was something else so powerful that you said, and in a few minutes we're going to take a break, but I think this is a beautiful way to wrap up this first section. And you said something that literally took my breath away. And when you talked about this idea that you and your friends wanted to get this tattoo in memory of your friend who you loved and cared about so much, and who had such a deep impact and made a very lasting imprint in your heart and your life. And that this tattoo was literally an imprint that was symbolic of your love and memory for this person. And how where you were in your life was not only putting you in a place of saying, no, I won't get that, no matter how important that is, because I'm not supposed to, and I can't, and I shouldn't. These are all these dirty words, right? These dirty S words in our lives. But how you did get it, but you made sure you could hide it.
Yeah.
And what I got there was this absolute representation that was such a point in your life where it was very clear that you were hiding your true self, and that the action of literally covering up and concealing something that was so important to you was so representative of you hiding.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess to piggyback off of that, a few years later, as after I left the schools and was starting my own business, and which was a personal journey, a spiritual journey, it was a business journey. It's been an everything journey. But about a year and a half after I left, I got a tattoo all the way down my forearm that says "Follow your heart," and that was the moment for me. Like, that was the, you know what, this is something that's so important to me. There are certainly people in my life that maybe would disapprove of a tattoo, and I didn't care. Like, I didn't care. Like, this is something that was so important to me. It was actually a reward to myself for an accomplishment that I had. And so that was a big moment for me when I finally did something and like didn't care what other people thought.
Wow. Megan, and I'd like to highlight here, because this is such a delicate balance as well, that, some people, when they come into these places of like transformation, And one of the things that we do on this podcast is, and in all the workings that I do, I talk so much about, that this is a time of unlearning and redefining these words that we have come to identify ourselves with and in our lives. And one of those being like authenticity and speaking your truth and living your truth. And what sometimes happens is people go through these waves where, the pendulum swings the other way. And, someone in your position could fall into that place of like, oh yeah, well, I was an administrator and I couldn't get it. Well, watch me now. I'm going to get like sleeves all over and I'm going to stick it to you, right? Up yours.
I did not do that.
Exactly. And that's what I really want to highlight here. That some people, it's like, well, I'm just trying to express it's all about intention. And that's what I think is so beautiful about what it is that you're sharing here, that when you did that, that was not a, middle finger and up yours to the education system or anybody who would have had a problem with that. This was your way of living freely and fully expressing and having doing it all the way up and down. You're not limiting to that tiny little space and playing small anymore.
And like you said, I was hiding with the other one, and this was me like coming out of hiding.
I love that. Oh, Megan, that is so beautiful. We're going to put a pause in this and take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Megan about how these pivotal moments and points of transformation shifted her in the direction of her life and where it is that it took her after that. So please stay with us and we will be right back. Hello, everyone. Thanks for staying with us. We are back here with Megan Winters, and we are talking about the experiences that Megan had throughout her life, guiding her towards the direction that she was meant to take, those shoulder taps, those signs and signals, everything from living in an opposing direction of what it is that physically she needed as an introvert, that self-care that she needed to recharge that battery and replenish herself, the choices and decisions of sacrifice that she made that took her, and really disconnected her from the best parts of her life. And one of the most impactful sharings was that of all of those ways in which she was hiding from herself, hiding from the world, hiding from her true life, and really concealing both symbolically, metaphorically, and literally. And as we come back here, we're going to reveal the incredible ways, and what I love about Megan's story is she is a walking testimonial to how we can move in opposing directions, kicking and screaming, moving and doing those things that we think we're supposed to, that we should, saying yes when we should say no, and moving in opposition as much as we want. But silly us think that we're in control and that we make these decisions. But Megan's experience is a really beautiful example of how when we don't know how to get out of our own way, the powers that be can literally rip situations, relationships, and opportunities and experiences away from us and shove us where we're meant to be. So, Megan, can you share a little bit with us about those incredible openings for you in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of where I left it was, I told the principal I would give her 3 years, or 4, I'd give her a 4th year, and but the universe had a different plan for me. So this is where things get interesting. So I had a dream many years before, so actually it was 2011 when I was at a conference in, it was when Apple first was releasing the iPads into like using them in the classrooms. They're teaching teachers how to use iPads in the classrooms. I'm at this conference and I saw a virtual tour for the first time. And so like virtual tours being like what you see on Google Maps where you can click through a space. And at the time, it was absolutely like, that was like a mind-blowing experience. Like that was, I'd never seen one before. And I was like, what? You can do that? Like you can look through places before you go there? And I like had this divine just knowing that this is the thing that could change so many lives. Both like working with students that have autism, one of the common characteristics is difficulty with transitions, doing things new for the first time. And when we had new things coming up in the classroom, we would provide visual support. What a fantastic visual support if everybody could see a virtual tour ahead of time. And then also, you know, the families, like those families that have children with disabilities, that I worked with were not having the same types of quality family experiences. They weren't going into the community. They weren't going to the movies. They weren't traveling. And so I just felt like this is my purpose on earth. Like this is my purpose on earth, is to help families to have these quality experiences. So this was 2011. So I had this dream on my heart, which leads me to 2017. When I had been working on this project. It was called, the original version was called Able Eyes. And I had just finished my, so when you become an assistant principal, you have 3 years. Well, I had my master's degree, but you have to have an admin certificate to hold that position. And so I had 3 years to get that certificate. I found a program through Penn State that was online. It was a reputable program. I talked to Penn State. Penn State said that it transferred to Michigan. I talked to Human Resources. Human Resources was good with, like, everything was fine. Perfect, great. I finished the program in 2.5 years. I, turned in all of my paperwork to Human Resources, and I got a raise, and I went on with life. So I'm also started working on Able Eyes at this time, and I told the principal I would give her 1 more year. I thought if I could have the stability of staying in this role for another year while I'm building this thing that's on my heart, that might be a safer route. So I'm going to give her 1 more year. However, I clearly knew what was meant for me, and in July 2017, which was my 3 years in that role, Human Resources called me and they said, we have some bad news. And I was like, what? And they said, your program through Penn State was not accepted by the state of Michigan, and you can no longer hold your role as an assistant principal. And I was like, what? Like, just like, talk about the rug being pulled out from under you. Like, and the Human Resources, the school, they were amazing. They offered, to put me in different roles. Like, it would still be a special ed supervisor or a teacher consultant or a teacher. Like, there were a ton of roles that I could have taken on in the school. But my heart was telling me that this was happening for a reason. The way it ended up working out, and it could not be more divine in timing, is that my last day of school was on a Friday. There was a Saturday, Sunday in between, and Able Eyes launched on Monday. This is Able Eyes. I had been working on this for 6 months, probably, like creating the website, creating our content, creating our logos. Like, I really had been working a ton in the background on this thing that I wasn't even really talking about with anybody. It was like a secret, but something I was so excited about. And like I said, the universe was like, nope, here you go. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And even then, I didn't want to listen. I was so worried. I mean, I was making almost $100,000 a year. My health benefits, my husband was self-employed, so our health benefits were through the school. Like, that's a huge hit to lose those 2 things. So I was still kind of like, well, maybe I can find something like closer to home to at least make some money. I ended up applying for a job in my hometown as a teacher in an amazing classroom. I would have loved it. They offered it to me with an amazing package. She even said, if that's not enough, I can go to the board and I can get you more. Like, it was like all of the tests were there. Like, here's this little carrot. Do you want it? And she called me and offered me this position, and I got off the phone and I said I need to talk to my husband about it, and I'll call you back. And so I called my husband, and I told him what the offer was, and he said, well, what do you think? And I said, I don't think it's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. I don't know. Like, that's crazy, right? And he was like, we'll figure it out. Like we always do. We'll figure it out. If this is not what you think you're supposed to do, then don't do it. And so I called her and I turned down the position, and then I cried for a really long time. But that was my big moment. And the things that I remember after that, like in those weeks after that, is I started to like see life completely different. Like, I was noticing like sunsets and sunrises and like pretty flowers, and I was recognizing that there was a life out there that I was too busy to even open my eyes to before. And since then, it has been an incredible journey of creating this amazing company. Able-Eyes is the original company, and then we just actually launched kind of the 2.0 version of it 8 days ago, called Able View. And it is an incredible tool that is helping people find places in their community or when traveling, and access all of that accessibility information before they go. So it's like the Yelp of virtual tours, or the Yelp of accessibility information. And I am living my purpose. I'm living what my soul purpose is. I love everything about my life. I have a great relationship with my husband now, and I mean, my kids are teenagers, so I don't know what a great relationship with a teenager looks like, but I mean, I think I'm doing okay.
I can personally definitely guarantee that you are in a great place in terms of that. And Megan, wow. And again, gem upon jewel upon diamond of absolute incredible everything that it is that you're bringing out here. And I really want to highlight here, there was something you kept saying, and it's so interesting the way you phrased it. And when I'm tying all of these ideas together, you said, like, there's this dream on my heart. And most often, I don't know if you realize this, but when we hear people say this, they say, I had something in mind, or a dream in my heart, or I had a purpose in my sight, or you kept saying on. And this incredible connection that I keep going back to about this mark, this imprint on your heart. And again, going back to the tattoo. And you're like, and I was hiding that. We were working on this company undercover, right? We were doing it like in secret and hiding that mark on your heart. The same way you were hiding that mark on your arm. I mean, it's just like, this is so beautiful. Like, and I think now, like, after this, it's like, you're going to look down at that thing and go like, wow, I had no idea that this had so much value in it at the time. But I see it so much that, these signs and these signals are there for us. And you talk about the things that after this, it's like, I was working on this company in secret and I was hiding this mark, and that the universe was like, you know what? We're outing you, girl. We are just like, this is your grand reveal. And just when you think, you have this, And, speaking about those experiences, how you turned back and it's like, all right, I'm going to go for that teaching job because I don't know. And I need that security. There is that test of like, we want to see how ready you are to take this leap of faith.
Yes.
And a lot of people have this way of, they express that things start to go well for them for a little while. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's almost this backtracking, right? Like where you question yourself and you doubt yourself and all these things start happening and it feels like everything's getting like thrown in my way. And we look at that and really, that is that test. It's that boot camp or that walking through the fire to say, we want to know that you are all in, that you have everything that it's going to take, that you are 100% committed and invested in this. And Megan, for you to sit here and say, like, I have my pick of salaries. I've got the packages, I've got the benefits. I literally get to write my own ticket into this. And then you and your husband together in this beautiful partnership and connection. And first of all, I just want to give a huge shout out and some incredible gratitude to your husband and all of the partners and spouses and connections in everyone's lives, most especially yours in this endeavor, who are in a place of support and love that you can take these leaps and take these steps together with the support of someone like that. And we really just want to give some real great acknowledgement to what a gift that is.
Absolutely.
Because we know that not everybody has that, and that can make or break these situations. Like if you didn't have that support, hey, no, I understand. This is a great dream and everything, but we need that money. So sorry, honey, you're taking that position. We wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right.
We could be, but maybe you wouldn't still, be in your marriage. There would be a very different path of your experience. So really extending that gratitude to that gift that was placed into your life with that relationship with your husband. So from my heart and everyone in the lives that you're touching with your gifts and your company and what it is that you have made, thank you to you and thank you to him for that support to put you in this place. But most especially, this realization, and this is, as we tie this all together, what I think is what makes each and every one of these interviews and these connections so beautifully aligned with this message of coming back to life, is that you came to realize that you were noticing things like sunsets and the breeze on your face, and you were feeling and you were experiencing and you were connecting, and that at this time in your life, living out this true purpose. And again, as you recognize, none of these experiences leading up to this were for nothing. Because had you not had that experience with, students with autism, would you have ever considered, this idea?
Right, probably not. Maybe through my friend Jessica, that was a wheelchair user, but it wouldn't have had the same depth to it as it does without having that experience. And I did it. I feel like I'm doing it for those parents and for those families too. Yes, for the child or the person with a disability, but that doesn't just impact that kid. It impacts the parents and the siblings too. Like if you never, get to go on a camping trip, or never get to go to Disney World, or never get to go someplace because you have a sibling with a disability, that's affecting the entire family. And so I want to make sure that those opportunities are available for people, and that we can provide enough information for them to have those types of experiences.
Oh, Megan, what an incredible gift that you are giving these families. I mean, there is so much, and there's no question, that every educator is a gift in the life of every child, and every student that they have an impact and the opportunity to work with. And there is so much in terms of really that next level of working with special education students and connecting with not just the curriculum and the education they receive and those experiences, but a quality of life.
Yes.
Just in advocacy and working as case managers and, upholding special ed laws and IEPs and everything, we connect with the parents as well on a very different level. We have a lot of outside of work emails and phone calls and chats and stories, right? So we really become a part of their lives. And what I think is incredible, Megan, is, there is no question that you were marked for a life, and that, I can feel it in your energy and your spirit that you really connect with a level of empathy and compassion and support and understanding that many other people who either have no experiences with special needs children, who don't have special needs children of their own, those things that, like you said, experiencing a camping trip, those things that many people just, we hop on a plane, we go to Disney every year, or, we have a camp, a seasonal campsite, or, just take for granted the ability to be able to do those things. And your realization that recognizing things like a sunset and what it feels like to really experience life is a gift. And everything that has led up to you following this direction, to not only give yourself every bit of those gifts that you were meant for, in the gifts of your beautiful family, your connection, your experiences with those sunsets and nature, the replenishment of your spirit and your mind and your body in having that time for the self-care that you need. But how it is that enables you to show up so fully in this life and in this world, joyfully, energetically, and lovingly giving that experience to others as well. And I have to ask you, Megan, this way of living, running a whole company and a business and corporate, there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot of moving pieces. But would you say that your life in this experience now, is it harder, easier, busier, faster, more exhausting, more draining, or was life before the way you were living it harder?
That's a great question. Building the business definitely was waves early on. I was just Googling my way through life. Just figuring, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know how to create an invoice. I didn't know how to sign a contract. I didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't know, because the business is, pay to be on our platform. And so I had to go out and tell businesses why this is important. So there's a selling component of it too. I'm an educator. I don't know how to sell anything. But right now especially, so just launching this new platform has been a really big deal. It's a partnership with an incredible company that believes in us and believes in the impact that this will have. And so I'm working so many hours every day of the week right now in this season, and it's easier. It's 1,000% easier because I love it so much, and I believe in it, and I know that what I'm doing is making an impact, that my 8 hours a day in the school was so much harder when I was not living like authentically into who I am. And like I am the same person in all aspects of life now. I'm the same person at home. I'm the same person when I work. I'm the same person when I'm in a meeting. I'm the same person when I'm on a podcast. Like I am the same person all the time. And it was much harder being a separate person and working less hours than it is being just one whole person and putting tons of time and energy into my career. But it just feels worth it. Like I would put more hours in it than what I needed to do.
I can't even begin to express the joy that I feel in your, I mean, I can hear it and I can feel it, where you're just like, you know what, I could work, 60 hours a week and I still have energy, and it's still easier than putting in 30 the way things were. And I think that's one of the greatest indicators that for anybody, if you literally feel like whatever it is that you're doing, that it's like, I share this story that when I knew it was time to come out of what it was that I was doing, I was crying before I was going to sleep. I was crying in the shower when I woke up. I would have to drive with my makeup bag in my car on the way to work because I was literally crying on my way to work, and I didn't want to mess up my mascara. If you are literally dreading, and I'm not talking about just like, conflicts within the workplace or anything like that, but where it's like you literally feel like I cannot go on living this way anymore. That duality of knowing that there's something different, that mark on your heart that you're just covering with both hands and a steel wall. As scary and uncertain and tumultuous as it could be for that point in time of transition, it is so worth it to brave and to work through the temporary discomfort of transition than to continue to endure perpetual suffering of familiar pain.
True story.
Right? And Megan, I mean, your experience is a living testimony to that. And as we wrap everything here together, I'd like to ask for any parting words that you would like to share with everyone here, to bring back this idea of your coming to life experience and what it is that is possible for everyone out there.
Yeah, I think that the few biggest things that I have learned about myself, or that if someone asked me like, what advice would you have, it would be to follow your heart, like whatever it is, follow your heart. It's tattooed on my forearm. Follow your heart. Those are your shoulder taps. Those are your nudges. And I try to listen to those nudges as often as possible. The other thing that I kind of live by is not making decisions out of fear. So I used to struggle with public speaking. That was something that would cause me a lot of anxiety. And now I speak all the time. I speak on stages. I speak on podcasts. Because I'm speaking about something that I'm so passionate about. For one, I'm usually talking about disability topics and things like that. But as much as sometimes like the next biggest thing comes up, and there's a part of me that wants to say, oh no, that's too big, that's too many people. But I never say no out of fear. That's probably my number 2, and that's it.
I love that. Megan, I want to thank you with all my heart for the gifts of your time, your energy, your willingness to come and to share, and most especially for the work that you are doing with your company, Able Eyes, now Able View, and the experiences that you are giving, and that gift of the life experiences that you are giving to so many of those with special needs, as well as those families who are experiencing everything it is that comes with a life of accommodating and working with those needs. Such an incredible gift. And I know that you are making an incredible impact in this world. And I am wishing you and your team all of the best, and that you continue to thrive and grow, so you can continue to bring these experiences out into the world. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has taken the time to make space and time in your day and in your lives to be with me and Megan for this experience. I want to invite everyone who would like to take their journey and experience to the next level to become a Coming Back to Life member, where every 2 weeks you will receive an extended intuitive message building on these ideas and concepts and taking these things to a deeper level, and also to extend an invitation to the Rising Together Women's Community, where we are building a tribe of connection and community of incredible souls and spirits, continuing our journeys in unity. So you can find information for that in the links in the show notes, as well as information for Megan on AbleView and Able Eyes in the show description notes. And I want to wish you all a wonderful rest of the week, and look forward to being with you for our next episode. Until then, take care. Great blessings. Bye-bye.